powerful, most deeply wired forms of human communication that exists. And today we are going to take that feeling apart. We are going to look at it from every angle: the neuroscience, the psychology, the evolutionary biology, the attachment theory, the social dynamics, the cultural dimensions, the spiritual interpretations, and the raw, messy, beautiful human experience of what happens when two people lock eyes and something shifts. Because understanding why eye contact feels like time slows down isn't just a fascinating intellectual exercise. It's actually a window into some of the deepest questions about what it means to be human, what it means to connect, what it means to be seen, and what it means to fall in love. So stay with me. This is going to be a long conversation, and it is going to be worth every single minute. The science of the moment. What actually happens in your brain. Let's start with the basics, because the basics are anything but basic. When you make eye contact with another person, especially someone you're attracted to, someone you care about, or even someone who triggers an intense emotional response in you, your brain doesn't just register a visual input and move on. What actually happens is a cascade, a chain reaction that involves multiple brain regions, multiple neurotransmitters, multiple hormonal systems, and your entire autonomic nervous system all firing at once. Let's slow it down. The moment your eyes meet someone else's, the information travels through your visual cortex like any other visual input. But here's where things get interesting. The eye, specifically the sclera, the iris, the pupil, is processed differently than other visual information. Researchers have found that the human brain has specialized neural pathways that are specifically tuned to process eye gaze. This isn't true for most other visual stimuli. We don't have dedicated neural architecture for processing, say, a stop sign or a coffee cup or even a face in profile. But eyes? Eyes get their own priority lane in your neural processing highway. One region in particular lights up powerfully during eye contact: the amygdala. The amygdala is often described as the brain's alarm system, the emotional processing center, the region responsible for detecting threats and triggering fear responses. But that description sells it short. The amygdala is more accurately understood as your brain's significance detector. It's what decides in fractions of a second whether something deserves your full attention. And mutual eye contact? It almost always triggers the amygdala, not necessarily in a fear response kind of way, though intense eye contact can feel threatening, and we'll talk about why, but in a "this is important, pay attention" kind of way. When the amygdala activates, it sends signals to your hypothalamus, which controls your autonomic nervous system. Your autonomic nervous system then begins a whole-body response. Your heart rate may increase, your pupils dilate, your palms might start to sweat, your breathing can change. Your body is preparing for something significant. Now, here's the part that's directly relevant to why time seems to slow down. Your perception of time is not a fixed, mechanical thing. It is constructed by your brain, and it is intimately connected to how much information your brain is processing. When your brain is processing a lot of information very quickly, when it's highly activated, when multiple systems are firing simultaneously, time dilation occurs. You perceive time as moving more slowly. Think about moments of extreme stress or danger, where people often report that time slowed down and they could see everything with unusual clarity. Or think about moments of intense focus, where hours can seem to pass in what feels like minutes. Time perception is elastic, and your brain is the one doing the stretching and compressing. During intense eye contact, your brain is processing an enormous amount of information simultaneously. It's analyzing the other person's pupil size, which gives you information about their emotional state and their attraction level. It's reading micro-expressions around their eyes and in the muscles around their face. It's processing the social and emotional context of the interaction. It's monitoring your own internal state. It's running through memory and association systems, comparing this experience to past experiences. It's activating reward pathways. It's navigating threat assessment systems. All of this happens in fractions of a second. And all of this combined neural activity creates the subjective experience of time behaving strangely, of a moment expanding, of the world around you receding, of that person's eyes becoming, for a few seconds or a few minutes, the most important thing in your reality. This is not poetic license. This is neurological reality. But we're just getting started because the brain chemistry of sustained eye contact goes even deeper. Oxytocin, the chemical of connection. When eye contact is sustained, when it moves beyond the brief socially comfortable glance and becomes genuine mutual gaze, your brain begins releasing oxytocin. Oxytocin is often called the love hormone, or the bonding hormone, or the cuddle chemical, and while all of those names are a little reductive, they're pointing at something real. Oxytocin is a neuropeptide produced in the hypothalamus and released by the pituitary gland. It plays a central role in social bonding, trust, emotional intimacy, and feelings of connection. Here's what's remarkable. Eye contact alone can trigger oxytocin release. You don't need touch. You don't need spoken words. You don't need any physical proximity beyond the visual connection. Just sustained mutual gaze is enough to begin a neurochemical cascade that your body associates with intimacy and bonding. Research has shown that oxytocin levels rise during eye contact, and that this rise has measurable effects on behavior and emotional state. People who have received oxytocin in experimental settings report feeling more trusting, more connected, more willing to be vulnerable with others. They process social information differently. They pay more attention to eyes specifically, which creates a fascinating feedback loop. Oxytocin makes you pay more attention to eyes, which leads to more eye contact, which releases more oxytocin, which makes you pay even more attention to eyes. This is part of why the experience of falling in love involves so much eye contact. It's not just that you like looking at the person you're falling for, though of course you do. It's that the eye contact itself is chemically driving the bonding process forward. Every time you hold each other's gaze, you are literally, chemically, neurologically deepening your connection. You are building a bond at the level of brain chemistry. And oxytocin isn't working alone. Dopamine, norepinephrine, and the cocktail of attraction. Alongside oxytocin, intense eye contact with someone you're attracted to also activates your dopaminergic reward pathways. Dopamine is your brain's reward and motivation chemical. It's released when you experience pleasure, and more importantly, it's released in anticipation of reward. It's the chemical of wanting, of craving, of the thrill of possibility. When you make eye contact with someone attractive, your brain's dopamine system kicks in. This is part of why that moment of eye contact with someone you find beautiful or compelling feels so good. Your brain is registering this as a rewarding stimulus and responding accordingly. Norepinephrine is also released, which explains the physical arousal response, the racing heart, the heightened alertness, the feeling of being suddenly very awake and very present. Norepinephrine is your body's alertness and readiness chemical. It prepares you for action. During intense eye contact with someone you're attracted to, your body is essentially saying, something important is happening. Be ready. The combination of oxytocin, dopamine, and norepinephrine creates what researchers sometimes describe as the neurochemical cocktail of romantic attraction, and it can all be initiated by eye contact alone. This is not a small thing. This means that the moment two people lock eyes and hold each other's gaze, a genuine chemical and neurological process is underway that, if sustained, begins to rewire how each person's brain experiences the other. You are, in the most literal neurological sense, becoming part of each other's neural landscape. Mirror neurons and synchrony. There's another layer to this that is perhaps the most astonishing of all. When you make eye contact with someone, particularly sustained, emotionally resonant eye contact, your brain's mirror neuron systems activate. Mirror neurons are brain cells that fire both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else performing the same action. They're part of the neural machinery of empathy. They're what allows you to feel what another person is feeling, to understand their experience from the inside, rather than just observing it from the outside. During sustained mutual gaze, something remarkable happens at the level of mirror neuron activity. The two brains begin to synchronize. This has been demonstrated in research using simultaneous brain imaging of two people interacting. When two people make eye contact, their brain activity begins to show synchronized patterns. They are, in a very real sense, beginning to resonate with each other. This neural synchrony is part of what creates the profound sense of connection that sustained eye contact can generate. You're not just looking at another person, you're neurologically entangling with them, at least temporarily. Your brain's activity is being shaped by theirs, and vice versa. This is also why truly intense eye contact can feel like being seen in the deepest possible sense, because in a neurological sense, you actually are being seen. The other person's brain is resonating with the signals coming from you. They're not just observing you. At the level of neural activity, they're experiencing something of what you're experiencing. The evolutionary story, why we were built for this. The neurological responses we've been discussing didn't develop in a vacuum. They evolved over millions of years of human social history, and understanding that evolutionary context helps explain why eye contact feels so profound and why it carries such enormous social and emotional weight. Let's go back to the beginning. Human beings are among the most social animals on the planet. Our survival has always depended on our ability to cooperate with each other, to communicate complex information, to form alliances, and to accurately assess the intentions and emotional states of others. In this context, the eyes became, over evolutionary time, an extraordinarily sophisticated communication channel. One of the most fascinating pieces of evidence for this is the white sclera. If you look at other primates, chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, their eyes are almost entirely dark. The iris and pupil take up most of the visible eye area, and the sclera, if visible at all, is dark rather than white. But human beings have large, highly visible white sclera surrounding a relatively small iris. This makes our gaze direction extremely obvious and easy to read. For most animals, concealing gaze direction is an advantage. Predators don't want their prey to know where they're looking. Prey animals don't want predators to track their attention. But humans evolved in the opposite direction. We evolved to make our eye gaze highly visible and easily trackable by other humans. Why? Because for social creatures like us, the ability to share attention, to know where someone else is looking, to follow their gaze, to communicate about the same things, is enormously valuable. Joint attention is one of the foundations of human communication, language development, and cooperative behavior. By making our gaze direction visible, we became better at working together, at teaching each other, at sharing information about the world around us. But this same feature that makes us excellent at cooperative gaze following also makes us exquisitely sensitive to being looked at. Because if eye gaze is a rich channel of social communication, then when someone's eyes meet yours and hold, that is a socially significant signal that demands interpretation and response. Eye contact as social signal, reading intention. In our ancestral environment, and in human societies throughout history, prolonged eye contact carried specific social meanings. Understanding what those meanings were helps explain why we have such strong emotional responses to sustained gaze. Direct, sustained eye contact from another person can mean several very different things, and your brain has to do rapid and sophisticated assessment to determine which meaning applies in the current context. It can mean dominance and threat. In many primate species, a prolonged stare is a challenge, an assertion of dominance, a potential prelude to aggression. Human beings retain this response. There's a reason why staring contests feel vaguely confrontational, why being stared at by a stranger can feel threatening, why certain criminals and predators use prolonged direct eye contact as an intimidation tool. When sustained eye contact comes from someone whose intentions are unclear or potentially threatening, your amygdala fires in a fear-based pattern. But sustained eye contact can also mean the complete opposite. It can mean interest, attraction, openness, vulnerability, and invitation to connection. When the context is safe, when you know the person or feel safe with them, when there are other signals of warmth and openness, a slight smile, relaxed body language, a gentle expression, then sustained eye contact becomes one of the most powerful signals of romantic interest and emotional intimacy that exists. And then there's a third meaning, genuine seeing. When someone meets your eyes and holds your gaze in a way that communicates care, attention, and presence, it triggers what might be described as the experience of being truly witnessed. And this experience is, for many people, one of the most emotionally powerful things that can happen between two people. Your brain has to rapidly assess which of these categories applies in any given moment of sustained eye contact, and this rapid assessment process is part of why intense eye contact is so mentally engaging, so absorbing, so capable of making time seem to slow. The vulnerability paradox. Here's something fascinating about the evolutionary psychology of eye contact. The vulnerability it requires is actually part of its power. To hold someone's gaze, to really hold it, not to look away after the socially comfortable 2 or 3 seconds, but to stay present in that visual connection, requires a degree of openness and vulnerability. You're allowing someone to look at your eyes, which are astonishingly expressive of your inner state. You're giving up a layer of privacy. You're making yourself visible. This is why people find it so difficult to maintain eye contact when they're lying, or when they're ashamed, or when they're deeply afraid. The eyes communicate what words can conceal. Most people have an intuitive sense that their eyes reveal them in ways they can't fully control. So when someone holds your gaze, and you hold theirs, there is an implicit agreement happening, a negotiated vulnerability. Both of you are saying, without words, "I'm willing to be seen right now. I'm willing to let you look at me. I'm not going to hide." This mutual vulnerability, this mutual willingness to be seen, is neurologically and psychologically experienced as one of the most intimate forms of human contact. It activates bonding systems. It triggers the experience of connection, and because it requires courage and openness, it carries enormous emotional weight. In evolutionary terms, this makes perfect sense. The ability to be vulnerable with another person, to let your guard down, to allow yourself to be truly seen, is a prerequisite for deep social bonding, romantic partnership, and genuine trust. The discomfort of sustained eye contact weeds out people who aren't ready for that kind of openness. And the reward of sustained eye contact, that extraordinary feeling of connection and resonance, reinforces and deepens bonds between people who are. The mate selection function. We can't discuss the evolutionary psychology of eye contact in the context of love without talking about its function in mate selection. Across virtually every human culture that has been studied, eye contact plays a central role in the initial stages of romantic attraction and courtship. The sequence is remarkably consistent: mutual glance, look away, glance back, sustained gaze if interest is mutual, the beginning of approach or invitation. This sequence is not culturally learned in the way that specific courtship rituals are. It appears to be deeply embedded in human social biology. Research across cultures has found that this pattern of mutual gaze as an indicator and facilitator of romantic interest is universal, even in cultures where the specific norms around eye contact differ significantly. Why would evolution have built romantic attraction so heavily around eye contact specifically? Several reasons. First, as we've already discussed, sustained mutual gaze triggers oxytocin release and neural synchrony, which accelerates bonding. If two individuals are assessing each other as potential partners, shared gaze is a fast and efficient mechanism for beginning the bonding process. Second, the eyes provide a wealth of information about a potential mate's health, emotional state, attentiveness, and degree of interest. Pupil dilation in particular is an automatic, unconscious indicator of arousal and attraction. We can't consciously control our pupils, which is why they're such reliable signals. Someone whose pupils dilate when looking at you is, quite literally, responding to you in ways they cannot fake. Third, the willingness to sustain eye contact with a potential partner is itself a signal of several desirable qualities: confidence, openness, genuine interest, and the capacity for emotional intimacy. Someone who meets your eyes and holds them is communicating all of these things simultaneously. And fourth, the shared experience of time dilation during mutual gaze creates a sense of shared reality, shared present moment experience that is itself bonding. When you and another person are both caught in that suspended moment, when you've both stepped out of the normal flow of time together, you've had a shared experience that belongs only to the two of you. That exclusivity is itself emotionally significant. The psychology of being seen, attachment, identity, and the gaze. Now we're going to go deeper, because the experience of sustained eye contact is not just neurological and evolutionary, it's also profoundly psychological, and it connects to some of the most fundamental aspects of human development, identity, and the need to be known. The original gaze, mother and child. Before we talk about eye contact in romantic love, we need to talk about where our experience of being looked at begins. The first sustained eye contact most human beings experience is with their primary caregiver, most often their mother, in the weeks and months after birth. The gaze between a parent and an infant is not just a cute feature of early development. It is one of the primary mechanisms through which the human psyche begins to form. When a mother looks at her infant, not just looking, but really looking with attentiveness and warmth and recognition, she is communicating something that is foundational to the child's developing sense of self. She is communicating, "I see you. You exist. You matter. You are real and valuable and worthy of attention." The psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott wrote that the infant looks at the mother's face, and what the infant sees is themselves. When the mother gazes at the child with love and recognition, the child's own existence is confirmed and validated. The loving gaze is, in this view, one of the primary ways in which we come to know ourselves as real, as worthy, as lovable. This original experience of being seen, being held in someone's gaze with care and recognition, creates a template. And that template remains active for the rest of our lives. We continue to seek the experience of being genuinely seen by others, and we experience it as profoundly nourishing when we receive it. This is part of why romantic eye contact is so powerful. When someone looks at you with that quality of full, attentive, loving presence, when their gaze says, "I see you and I'm glad you exist," it resonates all the way down to this very early, very fundamental experience of being seen and recognized as worthy of love. It's not regression, exactly, but it is a resonance, a deep structure activation. The romantic gaze touches something that has been part of your psychological architecture since before you had words for anything. Attachment theory and the searching gaze. John Bowlby's attachment theory and the decades of research it has inspired gives us another powerful lens for understanding why eye contact in romantic relationships carries such enormous weight. Bowlby proposed that human beings come into the world with a biologically based attachment system, a set of drives and behaviors oriented towards seeking proximity to and comfort from attachment figures. In infancy and childhood, attachment figures are caregivers. In adult romantic relationships, our partners often become primary attachment figures. One of the key features of secure attachment, both in childhood and in adult romantic relationships, is what researchers call attunement. Attunement is the experience of having your emotional state recognized, matched, and responded to by another person. It's the experience of being emotionally met. And one of the primary channels through which attunement is communicated, both in infant caregiver relationships and in adult romantic partnerships, is eye contact. When your partner looks at you during a difficult moment and their eyes communicate genuine understanding and care, that's attunement. When you share a wordless look with someone you love and both of you know exactly what the other is feeling, that's attunement. When someone gazes at you with full presence and you feel in your body that you are not alone, that's attunement. People with secure attachment styles tend to be more comfortable with sustained eye contact. They've internalized the experience of the caring, attuned gaze, and so when they encounter it in adult relationships, they can receive it without becoming overwhelmed or defensive. People with anxious attachment styles often have a complicated relationship with eye contact. They crave it intensely. The longing to be truly seen is often particularly acute in anxious attachment, but they may also feel frightened by it, uncertain whether what they see in the other person's eyes will be acceptance or rejection. The experience of sustained eye contact can be almost painfully intense for someone with anxious attachment, because it activates both the longing for connection and the fear of disappointment simultaneously. People with avoidant attachment styles have often developed a strategy of emotional self-sufficiency that involves minimizing the perceived need for deep connection. They may be uncomfortable with sustained eye contact precisely because it bypasses their defenses. Eye contact doesn't respect the walls we build. It has a way of getting through. And here's what's important. In a romantic relationship, sustained, loving eye contact is one of the most powerful catalysts for healing and deepening attachment. Research by Sue Johnson, who developed emotionally focused therapy, and by John Gottman, who has spent decades studying what makes romantic relationships succeed or fail, both point to the quality of attentiveness, the willingness to genuinely see and be seen by a partner, as one of the core foundations of a lasting, loving relationship. The experience of time slowing during sustained eye contact with someone you love is, in this light, not just a neurological phenomenon. It's also a moment of deep psychological nourishment. It's the experience of attachment security, of being truly met, of the longing to be known being temporarily, beautifully satisfied. The terror and the gift of being truly seen. Here's a paradox that lives at the heart of eye contact in intimate relationships. The very thing we long for is also often the thing we fear. To be truly seen is one of the deepest human longings, and yet to be truly seen is also one of the most terrifying prospects many people face. Because to be truly seen is to be truly known, and to be truly known is to run the risk of being truly rejected. The writer and researcher Brené Brown has spent decades studying vulnerability, shame, and connection, and her work illuminates this paradox beautifully. We cannot have genuine connection without vulnerability. We cannot be genuinely loved without being genuinely known. And we cannot be genuinely known without taking the risk of being seen, fully, not just the carefully curated parts we choose to present. Eye contact is one of the most direct pathways to this kind of seeing. You can edit your words. You can control your body language to a significant degree. You can manage your facial expressions. But your eyes, particularly your eyes in the unguarded moment of genuine emotional experience, are far harder to control. This is why many people find sustained eye contact with a romantic partner simultaneously wonderful and terrifying. It can feel like standing naked in front of someone and hoping they'll find you beautiful. The intimacy of it is real. The vulnerability of it is real. And the potential reward, being fully seen and fully loved, is also real. In the context of time slowing down, this vulnerability plays an important role. When you're in that moment of sustained eye contact with someone you love or are falling in love with, part of the reason time expands is that your full consciousness is engaged. You're not partly somewhere else, partly thinking about what you said this morning or what you need to do tomorrow. You're entirely present because the stakes of the moment are high enough to demand your entire presence. And that full presence, that total absorbed vulnerable attention, is itself part of what makes the moment feel so profound and so temporally distinctive. The social architecture of gaze, rules, transgressions, and power. We don't make eye contact in a social vacuum. There is an elaborate, largely unspoken set of social rules governing when and how long and with what intensity we are permitted to look at each other. And understanding these rules and what it means to transgress them in the context of romantic attraction sheds important light on why the experience of sustained eye contact can feel so significant. The unwritten rules of social gaze. In most Western social contexts, the culturally sanctioned duration of eye contact during a conversation is somewhere between 1 and 5 seconds before a brief break. During normal conversation, people make eye contact roughly 60 to 70% of the time when listening and slightly less when speaking. Prolonged, unbroken eye contact, staring, is coded as aggressive, inappropriate, or unhinged, depending on context. These rules serve important social functions. They allow for the enormous amount of information exchange that happens through gaze without overwhelming people with the full intensity of sustained mutual gaze in every social interaction. They maintain comfortable social distance. They allow people to feel seen without feeling exposed. But in the context of romantic attraction, these rules change. They bend, they blur, and the bending and blurring is itself meaningful. When two people are romantically attracted to each other, the normal eye contact rules begin to extend. Where social convention would suggest looking away after a few seconds, attraction creates a pull towards sustaining the gaze. Holding eye contact for longer than socially typical is itself a way of communicating attraction and interest. It's a departure from social convention, and that departure is legible to both parties. There's research suggesting that couples in love look at each other significantly more than pairs of friends or acquaintances. When researchers study the gaze behavior of people during conversations with romantic partners versus friends, the difference in both frequency and duration of eye contact is substantial. Love, quite literally, makes us look at each other more. And this extended looking is both an expression of attraction and a mechanism that deepens it. You look longer because you're attracted. You become more attracted because you're looking longer. The cycle reinforces itself. The power dynamics of gaze. Eye contact is never entirely separate from power dynamics. The social rules governing who can look at whom, and for how long, and in what ways, are shaped by dynamics of gender, social status, age, and cultural context. In many societies, historically and in the present, there are significant gender asymmetries in the social rules around gaze. Women have often been discouraged from direct, sustained eye contact with strangers, particularly male strangers, because of the way such contact might be interpreted. Men have historically had more social license to look at women than women have had to look back. These asymmetries matter in the context of romantic eye contact because they shape what the experience of sustained mutual gaze means for people of different genders. For many women, holding a man's gaze deliberately and without looking away is a kind of assertion, a choice to claim the expressive power of direct eye contact that social norms have historically tried to limit. There's often courage in it. For men, being truly met in the gaze by someone they're attracted to, rather than having the woman look down or away, is often experienced as electrifying, partly because of its relative rarity in social scripts. And for everyone, regardless of gender, the mutual decision to sustain eye contact beyond social convention is a kind of negotiated transgression of social rules. You're both stepping outside the normal boundaries of casual interaction. You're both implicitly acknowledging that this is not a normal interaction, that something different is happening here. That acknowledgement, that mutual recognition of crossing a threshold, is part of what makes the moment feel so significant. The stranger on the train. Why sometimes? Eye contact with strangers is profound. Not all profound eye contact happens in the context of existing relationships or active romantic interest. Many people have had the experience of a moment of sustained eye contact with a complete stranger that was oddly, inexplicably moving. On a train, in a crowd, across a busy street, a moment where your eyes met someone else's and something passed between you. Not attraction necessarily, or not only attraction, but something harder to name. A flash of connection, of mutual recognition, of seeing and being seen by someone entirely outside your normal social world. The philosopher Martin Buber wrote about what he called the I-thou relationship, a mode of engagement with another person in which you encounter them as a full subject, as another center of consciousness, rather than as an object or a means to an end. Most of our ordinary social interactions, Buber suggested, are I-it interactions, functional, instrumental, not engaging the full humanity of the other person. But in moments of genuine eye contact, even brief ones, even with strangers, something different can happen. You can suddenly, unexpectedly encounter another person as a full subject. Their reality becomes real to you. Their interiority becomes briefly legible. They are not a background feature of your day, not a face in the crowd, but a full, complex, separate human consciousness that has, for this moment, intersected with yours. These moments are rare, and they're over almost before they've begun. But they can be startlingly moving, and they almost always come with that particular quality of time slowing down, of the present moment expanding, that we're exploring throughout this conversation. Why? Because in that brief moment, your brain is doing something it rarely does with strangers. It's fully engaging with their humanity. It's briefly breaking down the categorical thinking that we use to navigate crowded social worlds. That person is a stranger, not relevant to me, and substituting genuine perception. And the cognitive effort and emotional richness of that genuine perception creates the time dilation experience. Eye contact and the architecture of falling in love. Let's talk specifically about romantic love now, because the role of eye contact in the process of falling in love, not just the dramatic moment of first eye contact, but throughout the entire arc of romantic development, is something that deserves careful attention. The first look, recognition before knowledge. Many people who fall in love report something like a moment of recognition when they first looked at a person they would come to love deeply. Not recognition in the literal sense, they'd never met before, but something like a pre-cognitive sense of, oh, there you are. This is a strange and beautiful phenomenon, and it's worth thinking about carefully rather than just sentimentalizing it. What's actually happening in that moment? When you look at someone for the first time and feel that jolt of recognition or significance, your brain is doing a rapid and complex assessment. It's reading their facial structure and comparing it to your deeply held templates of beauty and attractiveness. It's reading the expression in their eyes and assessing emotional attunement potential. Does this person seem like someone I could connect with? It's picking up on subtle micro-expressions and body language that give information about personality, warmth, and openness. And it's doing all of this in fractions of a second, producing an output that reaches your conscious awareness, not as a detailed analysis, but as a feeling. This person matters. And here's what makes this initial recognition moment so powerful. When it's mutual, when they feel it too, and your eyes meet in acknowledgement of it, time does its slowing down thing immediately. Your brains are both registering each other as significant, and both brains are fully engaged with processing that significance, and the result is that shared, suspended moment that people describe for years afterward. First eye contact with someone you'll fall in love with is often described as a before and after moment. Something happened there, even if you can't fully say what. The world rearranged itself slightly. This is real, and the neuroscience we discussed earlier explains why. The amygdala fired, dopamine surged, oxytocin began its work, mirror neurons activated, and your time perception did exactly what it does when your brain is maximally engaged with something significant. It stretched. Eye contact through the stages of love. The role of eye contact changes as a romantic relationship develops, and tracking those changes tells us a great deal about the emotional architecture of love. In the early stages, the stage researchers sometimes call limerence or passionate love, or the in-love phase, eye contact is almost constant. New lovers look at each other endlessly. They stare, they gaze. They're drunk on the sight of each other, and the experience of sustained mutual gaze is almost physically pleasurable. This is the neurochemistry at its most intense. The dopamine is surging, the oxytocin is flowing, and the reward system is fully activated by the sight of this particular person's eyes. This is also the stage where time slows down most dramatically and most frequently during eye contact, because everything about the person is still being processed with the full power of focused attention. You're still learning them. You're still discovering things in their face and eyes that surprise and delight you. Your brain hasn't yet built the kind of efficient representational shortcuts that come with long familiarity. So it's processing every look with full power. And that full power processing creates the time dilation experience. As love deepens and matures, as it transitions from passionate love to what researchers call companionate love, the gaze patterns change. They become more comfortable, more natural, less fraught with the particular intensity of early attraction. Long-term couples don't typically stare at each other with the wide-eyed intensity of new lovers. That would actually be kind of exhausting. But the capacity for intense, meaningful eye contact doesn't disappear in long-term love. Instead, it becomes something to be accessed at particular moments. During difficult conversations, during times of vulnerability, during moments of particular joy or grief, during intimacy, during arguments that need to be resolved with genuine understanding rather than defensive rhetoric. In healthy long-term relationships, these moments of sustained eye contact are like emotional checkpoints, moments where the couple reconnects at a deeper level than the ordinary flow of daily life usually permits. Research by John Gottman has found that what he calls turning toward, responding to a partner's emotional bids for connection, which often involves seeking eye contact, is one of the strongest predictors of relationship satisfaction and longevity. Couples who consistently meet each other's eyes when something important is happening build deeper reservoirs of connection and trust. And yes, even after 10 or 20 years together, when one partner looks at the other in a moment of genuine love or tenderness or vulnerability, time can still slow down. The neurological and psychological machinery that creates that experience is still there, It's just been placed in a different context. Eye contact and sexual attraction, the gaze as desire. It would be incomplete to discuss eye contact in love without talking directly about its relationship to sexual attraction and desire. The connection between sustained eye contact and sexual arousal is both neurological and psychological. At the neurological level, prolonged mutual gaze with an attractive person activates arousal systems in the brain, including the reward pathways, the hypothalamus, and systems associated with sexual response. The pupil dilation that occurs during attraction is read unconsciously by the other person as a signal of desire, and this perception itself increases attraction. Psychologically, eye contact in the context of sexual attraction is an enormously powerful form of communication. It can say things that words can't easily express. Things like, "I want you," or "I know that you know that I want you," or "This is what's happening between us right now." The shared acknowledgement through gaze of mutual desire creates a kind of closed loop of recognition that is itself intensely arousing. There's also the dimension of trust and vulnerability. Sustained eye contact during intimate moments requires and creates a particular quality of presence and openness. It resists the temptation to withdraw into fantasy or to be anywhere other than fully, entirely here, with this specific person, in this specific moment. And that quality of full presence, of being truly, completely with another person, is both emotionally and physically intense. This is why the eye contact that happens in the context of genuine mutual desire can feel almost unbearably intimate. You're seen, you're seeing, the desire is visible, and the mutual acknowledgement of that visibility, the staying present with it rather than looking away, is itself a profound act of connection. Time slows down in these moments, partly because your brain is experiencing such intense arousal and such complete present moment engagement that temporal perception expands, and partly because part of you wants the moment to last, wants to stay inside it, wants to hold on to this particular experience of being fully alive and fully present with another human being. Cultural dimensions. How different cultures experience and understand the gaze. Everything we've discussed so far is rooted in universal human neurobiology and evolutionary psychology. But the way that eye contact in romantic contexts is experienced, interpreted and expressed is also shaped by culture in important ways. Different cultures have dramatically different norms around eye contact, when it's appropriate, what it means, how much is comfortable, and what sustained gaze signals in different social contexts. The wide spectrum of eye contact norms. In many Western cultures, particularly in the United States and Northern Europe, direct eye contact is generally valued as a sign of confidence, honesty, and engagement. Making eye contact during a conversation signals that you're paying attention, that you're trustworthy, and that you're taking the interaction seriously. Avoiding eye contact in these contexts is often read as evasive, dishonest, or disengaged. But in many East Asian cultures, direct, sustained eye contact can be read quite differently. In Japan, for example, sustained eye contact with a superior or authority figure can be perceived as disrespectful or aggressive. More indirect gaze patterns are associated with respect and appropriateness in many social contexts. In many Middle Eastern cultures, the rules around eye contact are heavily gendered. Direct eye contact between unrelated men and women in public settings may be considered inappropriate or immodest in some traditional contexts. In many indigenous cultures around the world, patterns of gaze and looking carry specific meanings and protocols that differ significantly from Western norms. These cultural differences are important to acknowledge, but they don't undermine the core thesis we've been exploring. Rather, they show that while the neurological and evolutionary machinery of eye contact is universal, the social grammar through which that machinery operates is culturally shaped. Every culture has norms around when extended mutual gaze is meaningful and significant. What varies is the specific contexts and relationships in which that extended gaze is permitted or expected. In every culture, the romantic gaze, the moment when two people who are attracted to each other hold each other's eyes and acknowledge the significance of what's happening, has been recognized as a powerful and meaningful experience. The poetry and literature and art of virtually every human culture is full of the gaze of love. It's described in ancient Greek poetry, in medieval love songs, in Renaissance paintings, in Chinese classical literature, in Japanese haiku, in West African oral traditions. The specific form varies, but the experience, that extraordinary quality of time suspending itself when love looks at love, appears to be genuinely universal. The poetics of the gaze across cultures. The gaze of love has been a central subject of human artistic expression across cultures and throughout history, and this is worth noting not as a literary diversion, but as evidence of how deeply and universally this experience resonates. From ancient Sanskrit poetry, which described the eyes of the beloved as capable of destroying all rational thought, to medieval Persian poetry's obsessive attention to the beloved's gaze, to the Renaissance painters who studied so carefully the way eyes could communicate emotion and desire, and to the romantic poets who made the exchange of glances between lovers into a kind of mystical event. Human beings have been trying to express and understand this experience for as long as they've had art and language. This is not coincidence. This consistent, cross-cultural artistic fascination with the gaze of love is pointing at something real about human experience. Artists across centuries and cultures are all trying to capture the same phenomenon. That moment when eyes meet and time does something strange, and the ordinary world briefly becomes extraordinary. And what they're capturing in art is the same thing we've been exploring through neuroscience and psychology. The remarkable fact that the eyes are a portal, that through them, in certain moments, two human beings can make a contact that feels different from and deeper than almost any other form of connection. Gaze and communication. What the eyes say that words cannot. Language is an extraordinary achievement of the human mind. With words we can describe the inside of a star, the structure of a cell, the architecture of an idea, the history of a civilization. But words, for all their power, have limits. And some of the most important things in human experience fall just outside those limits. The eyes communicate in the territory beyond words. The language of the pupils. Let's start with the pupils, because they offer a beautiful example of how the eyes communicate things that are both pre-linguistic and involuntary. Pupil dilation is controlled by the autonomic nervous system. You cannot choose to dilate your pupils. You cannot fake it, or suppress it, or edit it. When your pupils dilate, it's because your body has responded to something, to increased light or decreased light, yes, but also to arousal, interest, and attraction. Your pupils respond to what matters to you. They respond to what turns you on, in every sense of that phrase. Research has shown that people find dilated pupils more attractive, even when they're not consciously aware of noticing the pupil size. This has been demonstrated in studies where identical faces are shown with slightly different pupil sizes, and people consistently rate the faces with larger pupils as more attractive, more warm, and more appealing. The preference operates below the level of conscious awareness, but it's real and consistent. What this means, in the context of romantic eye contact, is that when you look into someone's eyes and they're genuinely attracted to you, you're seeing the evidence of their attraction in a form they cannot control or conceal. Their pupils are giving you honest information, and your brain is reading that information unconsciously, responding to it, being affected by it, and then their brain is reading the same information from you. This exchange of involuntary, honest physiological signals This mutual reading of each other's bodies' uncontrolled responses is part of what makes eye contact in romantic attraction so intimate and so intense. You're both, quite literally, seeing each other's involuntary responses. You're seeing each other's bodies respond to each other, and there's no way to hide it. Micro-expressions and the reading of the eye. The area around the eyes is one of the most expressive regions of the human face. The muscles around the eyes, the orbicularis oculi, the frontalis, the corrugator supercilii, and others, produce an enormous range of subtle movements that communicate emotional states with remarkable precision. The researcher Paul Ekman, who spent decades studying facial expressions across cultures, identified what he called micro-expressions, brief, involuntary flickers of genuine emotion that cross the face too quickly for most people to consciously notice, but which the brain reads automatically, and a disproportionate number of these micro-expressions are expressed in and around the eyes. During sustained eye contact, you're bathed in a stream of these micro-expressions. Your brain is reading them automatically, building a moment-by-moment portrait of the other person's inner state that is more accurate and more nuanced than anything they could tell you in words. You're reading their genuine emotions, the ones that are real rather than performed. This is another reason why sustained eye contact can feel so intimate and so exposing. Because you're not just looking at someone's eyes, you're reading their inner world with a precision and directness that ordinary social interaction rarely permits. And they're reading yours. This reading happens faster than thought. Before you've consciously processed what you're seeing, your brain has already registered the information and begun responding to it, which is another reason why the experience of intense eye contact feels so immediate and so total. It bypasses the usual processing delays of conscious thought and communicates directly at the level of felt experience. The gaze in conflict and repair. Eye contact isn't only about attraction and connection. It also plays a crucial role in navigating conflict and repair in intimate relationships, and understanding this dimension adds important nuance to the picture. During an argument or a moment of hurt or disconnection between partners, the eyes are often the first place where either defense or opening will manifest. Avoidance of eye contact during conflict often signals withdrawal, shame, or the erection of defensive walls. Maintaining eye contact during a difficult conversation, really looking at your partner while they express pain or frustration or fear, requires a quality of courage and openness that doesn't come easily when our own defenses are activated. But research on what makes conflict productive rather than destructive in intimate relationships consistently points to the quality of attention each partner brings, including visual attention. Couples who can maintain genuine soft eye contact during difficult conversations, even briefly, even when it's hard, show greater capacity for empathy, greater willingness to hear the other person's experience, and better outcomes in terms of conflict resolution and relationship repair. When a partner is hurting and you meet their eyes with genuine presence and care, not with defensiveness, not with counter-accusations, not with the 1,000 subtle signals of checked-out distraction, that moment of being truly seen in pain is often more healing than anything you could say. The gaze says, "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I see that you're hurting, and it matters to me." And in these moments too, time slows, because the stakes are high and the attention is complete and the heart is fully engaged. The spiritual and philosophical dimensions of the gaze. We've spent considerable time in the territory of science and psychology. Now let's venture into territory that those disciplines can describe partially, but not completely. The spiritual and philosophical dimensions of what it means to look into another person's eyes. The soul in the eyes. Virtually every spiritual tradition in the world has assigned special significance to the eyes as windows into the deeper self, the soul, the inner life. The specific metaphysics vary enormously, but the intuition is remarkably consistent. There is something in the eyes that points beyond the surface of a person toward their essential nature. Mystics in many traditions have described experiences of profound unity or recognition that happened through the medium of gaze. There is a concept in some traditions of direct transmission, the idea that genuine wisdom or spiritual recognition can pass between master and student, or between two awakened individuals, through the medium of eye contact alone. The Sufi tradition has extensive writings about the spiritual power of the beloved's gaze. Many wisdom traditions speak of seeing the divine in the eyes of another person. Now, we don't need to adopt any specific metaphysical framework to appreciate what these traditions are pointing at. Whether or not you believe in souls or divine presence or non-local consciousness, the intuition these traditions express is capturing something genuine about the experience of sustained, deeply present eye contact. When you really look into another person's eyes, when you're fully present, when your defenses are down, when you're not thinking about yourself or about what to say or about anything other than this person right now, something does happen that feels qualitatively different from ordinary experience. There is a sense of encountering something beyond the surface, a recognition that feels deeper than knowledge, a contact that feels like more than the meeting of two bodies. Whether you want to call that the soul, or mutual neural resonance, or the experience of genuine intersubjectivity, or the I-thou encounter that Martin Buber described, or simply the profound intimacy of full, present human attention, something real is being pointed at. And the experience of time slowing down is part of this, because in that moment of genuine encounter, genuine looking and being looked at, you have stepped briefly outside the ordinary flow of time-bound experience. You're in the eternal present, in the now that has no past rushing in from behind it and no future pulling at it from ahead. Just this, just here, just these two sets of eyes finding each other in the middle of the world. Presence and the dissolution of the ordinary. The philosopher and theologian Paul Tillich wrote about what he called kairos moments, moments in which the eternal breaks into the temporal, in which ordinary time is interrupted by a qualitatively different kind of time. He was writing primarily about religious experience, but the concept maps remarkably well onto the experience of intense, love-filled eye contact. In that moment when time seems to slow, when the world around you recedes, when the noise gets quiet and the light seems different, and all you're aware of is those eyes, you have stepped into a different quality of time. Not clock time. Not the time of schedules and deadlines and the relentless forward momentum of ordinary life. Something else. Something that has more in common with the time of deep meditation or of great music or of genuine prayer than it does with the ordinary tick of the clock. This quality of time, expanded, present, luminous, is what the poet William Blake was pointing at when he wrote about seeing eternity in an hour. It's what the Zen traditions point at when they speak of the present moment as the only real moment. It's what the great mystics in every tradition describe as the experience of being fully awake, fully alive, fully here. And it's available to us, at least briefly, at least partially, in the ordinary miracle of eye contact with someone we love. This is perhaps one of the most beautiful things about love, that it gives us access, in the midst of ordinary life, to this extraordinary quality of presence. That love, through the simple mechanism of looking and being looked at, can suspend ordinary time and drop us into the eternal present. Practical implications, using the understanding of eye contact to build better love. We've traveled through neuroscience, evolutionary psychology, attachment theory, social dynamics, cultural context, and the spiritual dimensions of eye contact. Now let's come back to Earth and talk about what all of this means practically. How you can use this understanding to build deeper, more connected, more loving relationships. The practice of conscious eye contact. Most of the eye contact we make, even with people we love, is relatively unconscious. We look and look away in the normal patterns of social interaction without particularly thinking about what we're doing or why. We share glances, we meet each other's eyes, but we don't often make a deliberate, conscious choice to really look. What happens when you do? Research on what's sometimes called eye contact meditation or loving gaze practices suggests that deliberate, sustained mutual gaze between partners has measurable effects on feelings of connection, love, and intimacy. In some studies, couples who spent extended time gazing into each other's eyes without speaking, without any agenda other than presence, reported significant increases in feelings of love, connection, and relationship satisfaction. The practice isn't complicated. Sit facing your partner. Allow your gaze to rest softly on their eyes, not staring in an aggressive or intense way, but simply allowing yourself to look and to be looked at, to see them and to allow yourself to be seen, to be present with them in this simple, profound way. Most couples who try this find it surprisingly difficult at first. There's often an urge to laugh or to look away or to say something to break the intensity. These impulses are worth noticing because they reveal how unaccustomed we are to this quality of sustained, purposeful, mutual presence, even with people we love deeply. But if you can stay with it, if you can let the initial discomfort settle and just be there, looking and being looked at, something tends to happen. Something softens, something opens. The person you see every day becomes somehow more vivid, more real, more present to you. You see things in their face, in their eyes, that you might have been too busy or too defended to see before, and they see you. This practice doesn't require any equipment. It doesn't require a therapist or a retreat or a special setting. It just requires two people willing to look at each other. Eye contact as an act of love. One of the most important insights to take from everything we've explored is this: the quality of your attention, specifically the quality of your gaze, is itself an act of love. When you look at your partner, really look at them with full presence and genuine care, without being distracted by your phone or your thoughts or the television or the endless background noise of modern life, you are giving them something genuinely precious. You're giving them the experience of being truly seen, of mattering enough to receive your full, undivided, present attention. In a culture of constant distraction, where our attention is perpetually splintered among dozens of competing demands, the gift of full, present, loving attention is rarer and more valuable than it has perhaps ever been. Many people in otherwise caring relationships describe a deep loneliness that comes from feeling unseen, from going through the motions of shared life without ever being truly met in the gaze of genuine attention. The antidote to that loneliness is not more time together necessarily, or more activities, or more conversation about practical matters. It's more of this: turning toward each other with full presence, putting down the distractions, looking up, looking at each other, really looking. The neurochemistry will do its work. Oxytocin will be released. Mirror neurons will activate. The attachment system will respond. Time will slow, at least for a moment. And in that moment, you will both remember, or discover, or rediscover what it is you have together. Reading the eyes of your partner. Understanding the science of eye contact also gives you practical tools for reading and responding to your partner more skillfully. Pay attention to their pupil size. Learn what their eyes look like when they're genuinely happy, genuinely distressed, genuinely present, genuinely elsewhere. You don't need to analyze this consciously in the moment. Your brain is already doing most of this work automatically, but bringing conscious awareness to it can help you be more attuned, more responsive. Notice when your partner seeks eye contact and when they avoid it. Avoidance of eye contact in an intimate relationship is often a signal of something important: shame, fear, withdrawal, emotional overwhelm. Seeking eye contact is often a bid for connection, a request to be met and seen. Learning to read these signals and to respond to them with appropriate presence and care is one of the most powerful ways to deepen intimacy and repair disconnection. And when your partner is hurting, when they're scared or sad or angry or ashamed, consider what happens if you simply meet their eyes, not with words necessarily, just with your gaze, with presence, with the communication that says, "I see you, I'm here, this matters to me." This simple act, so simple it seems almost too simple, is often one of the most healing things one person can offer another. The first date and the chemistry of gaze. For those in the early stages of romantic exploration, understanding the dynamics of eye contact offers some genuinely useful insights. The research on romantic attraction consistently shows that eye contact is one of the most powerful signals of genuine interest. More powerful than clever conversation, more powerful than physical appearance in many contexts, more powerful than social performance. When you're with someone and you want them to know that you're genuinely interested, that they have your full attention, that you're not just going through the motions of a date, but are actually, truly engaged with them as a person. The most direct way to communicate this is through your eyes. This doesn't mean staring aggressively. It doesn't mean maintaining constant eye contact to the point of being unsettling. It means being genuinely present, putting away the phone, looking at them when they speak, holding their gaze for a beat longer than social convention strictly requires, in those moments when something genuine is passing between you. And if something is passing between you, if there's a moment of real connection, real mutual recognition, real chemistry, your eyes will almost certainly be involved. That moment of sustained mutual gaze, where time seems to briefly slow and the world recedes, is one of the clearest indicators that what you're experiencing is real and mutual. Pay attention to it. Honor it. Don't rush past it. Stay in it for a moment. Let it be what it is. The mystery that remains. We've covered an enormous amount of ground. We've explored the neuroscience of gaze and time perception. We've traced the evolutionary history of human eyes and why we developed such sophisticated eye contact processing systems. We've looked at the psychology of being seen through attachment theory and developmental psychology, and the work of researchers and therapists who have spent careers studying intimate connection. We've explored the social architecture of gaze, the cultural dimensions of eye contact norms, the role of the gaze in sexual attraction and desire, the communication that happens in the eyes beyond words, and the spiritual and philosophical dimensions of what it means to truly look at and be looked at by another person. And yet, there's something that all of this wonderful science and psychology and philosophy hasn't fully captured. Something that remains irreducibly mysterious at the center of the experience we've been exploring. Because when it actually happens, when you're actually there, in that moment, looking into the eyes of someone you love and feeling time slow and the world fall away, it doesn't feel like neuroscience. It doesn't feel like evolutionary biology. It doesn't feel like attachment theory or social dynamics or cultural scripts. It feels like something that can't be fully contained in any of those frameworks, as useful as those frameworks are. It feels like something that belongs to the same category as music heard in the middle of the night, or the particular quality of light just after a storm, or the moment you realize you've been holding your breath and you finally exhale. It feels like contact with something real, more real in some way than the ordinary world of schedules and obligations and tasks. And maybe that's exactly right. Maybe the experience of time slowing during profound eye contact is one of those moments where we briefly touch the deepest level of what it means to be alive and conscious and connected, where the machinery of our biology and psychology and social existence briefly gives way to something more essential, where we encounter each other not as categories or roles or names, but as what we actually are. These remarkable, fragile, luminous, temporary creatures making brief contact in the midst of an enormous universe, finding each other in the dark. The science explains the mechanism. It tells us how. But the why, the deepest why, the why that makes you catch your breath when you're in that moment, that why goes beyond science. It goes into the territory where neuroscience and poetry are pointing at the same thing from different directions, where the researcher's data and the lover's experience are both trying to express something that has no final, complete, satisfying description, which is perhaps exactly as it should be. Some things are not meant to be fully explained. Some things are meant to be experienced. And the experience of time slowing when love looks at love is perhaps one of those irreducibly human mysteries that we do better to honor than to fully explain. The eyes that hold time still. Let's come back to where we started. That feeling when someone looked at you, really looked at you, and time did something strange. When a moment stretched, when the noise got quiet, when your heartbeat became suddenly acutely audible, when the world narrowed to a single pair of eyes and you felt more completely than words can express that something important was happening. Now you know some of why. Your amygdala was registering significance. Your dopamine system was firing in the reward pattern. Oxytocin was beginning its bonding work. Your mirror neurons were reaching toward the other person's neural activity and beginning to synchronize. Your time perception was expanding because your brain was processing so much information so rapidly. Your attachment system was activating, resonating with that original template of what it means to be truly seen. Your evolutionary inheritance was responding to one of the most ancient and powerful social signals in the human repertoire. And at the same time, something else was happening, something that all the neuroscience and psychology and evolutionary biology points toward but doesn't entirely contain. Something that artists and mystics and lovers have been trying to express for as long as human beings have had language and art and wonder. You were being seen, really, fully, genuinely seen. And you were seeing really, fully, genuinely. And in that mutual seeing, in that brief, extraordinary window of total present moment connection, the usual armor came off. The usual performance quieted. The constructed self became, for a moment, transparent. And what was left was simply this: two human beings looking at each other in the middle of the world, finding that they are not alone. That is not a small thing. That is, in fact, one of the most important things. The entire apparatus of love, all the longing and the falling and the building and the maintaining and the repairing and the deepening that constitute a loving relationship across a lifetime, is in service of that experience. The experience of genuine contact, of being truly known and truly accepted, of not being alone in the most fundamental sense. And it can be accessed at any moment through the simple and profound act of looking at another person. Really looking. Allowing yourself to be looked at. Staying present in the vulnerability and the richness and the strange, beautiful experience of time slowing down while love looks at love. So let it slow down. Don't rush past it. Don't look away too soon. When you find yourself in one of those moments, whether with someone you've loved for decades or someone who just walked into your life, let yourself be there, all the way there, in the full, unrepeatable, time-stretching present of eyes meeting eyes and something passing between them that has no name. That moment is real. The science tells us it's real. The poetry tells us it's real. And your own experience, that flutter, that catch, that suspension of ordinary time, tells you it's real. So stay in it for a beat longer. Be there. Be seen. Because in the end, to be seen by someone who chooses to look, and to look back with full presence and an open heart, is perhaps the most essentially human experience there is. Epilogue. Some questions to sit with. Before we close, I want to leave you with some questions to carry with you. Not questions you need to answer right now. Questions worth living with. Questions that might, if you let them, change the quality of your attention in your relationships. When was the last time you really looked at someone you love? Not a glance, not a habitual registering of their presence, but a genuine, full, present look. When was the last time you let someone look at you, really look at you, without looking away or deflecting or filling the moment with words? What is it that makes you look away when eye contact gets intense? What is the thing you're protecting or afraid of, or not quite ready to share? What would it mean to let yourself be truly seen, not the edited, managed version of yourself, but the actual you, with all your complexity and contradiction and beauty and brokenness? And what would it mean to truly see the people you love, to look at them as if for the first time, as if they were endlessly fascinating and surprising, as if the ordinary miracle of their existence deserved your fullest, most present attention? These aren't rhetorical questions. They're invitations into a different quality of love, a more awake, more present, more genuinely connected way of being with the people who matter most. And it starts with something as simple and as profound as this: looking up from whatever's distracting you, finding the eyes of someone you love, and staying there for a moment longer than you usually would. Let time slow down. Let them see you. Look back. This concludes our exploration of why eye contact feels like time slows down. Thank you for staying the full distance of this conversation. If it moved something in you, or made you think differently about the quality of your attention in your relationships, that's exactly what it was meant to do. Now go look someone in the eyes.